So now we transition to a topic that will be of interest to anyone in this room who happens to be a human being, and that is the frontiers of human performance. We've been aspiring to this forever, but in the near future, technology will become directly integrated with us, with our human physical and cognitive systems. Yesterday, we had a working session with about 35 of you in a room talking about the frontiers of human performance and the networked body, sponsored by Astellas, and a big thanks to Bob and Marty at Astellas for providing support. And in that session, we were looking at leading-edge bioelectronics and other types of technologies and where in the next 10 or 20 years there might be some commercialization opportunities. So this is what the whole engineering, science, and business partnership is all about. To help us explore this space, I have two new friends, Brad Chedister and Mounir Zok. So Mounir and Brad, thanks for being with us. And I heard great things about the session yesterday. I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have been in 3 or 4 places at once, to be honest. But tell us briefly, what do you do within this realm of human performance and technology? Mounir, would you like to start?
Sure. What I'm really in charge with is very simple. It's getting as many medals as we can for our athletes. I'm not as much involved in getting the athletes to the Olympic Games, but when they get to the Games, I need to make sure that they are in the best position to win. And in my specific scenario, I'm always looking at emerging technologies and looking at sort of what some of the great companies are working on, what is the research coming out of different research organizations, and then figuring out how do I connect the dots between that world and the world of my athletes and coaches, right? What are their needs? How can we break the envelope every day? How can we push the limits of a human performance every day and just connect these guys together?
Great, thanks. Brad, what are you working on?
Yeah, what he said. I like medals. No, so a little bit different side of the coin here. So in the past about 10 plus years, I was at Special Operations Command, acting as the lead subject matter expert for the commander of Special Ops and the leadership there to go out and find human performance optimization technologies for the warfighter. We call them SOF athletes, Special Operations Forces athletes. These are our Olympic athletes of the military, so the top 1%ers, right? So how can we find technologies, how can you infuse technologies into their day-to-day operational lives and have the foresight to look into the future to discover new technologies that enables us to stay ahead of our near-peer competitors in not only tactical operations, but humanitarian aid assistance, right, coalition partnerships by, with, and through host nation partners.
Great, and some of you might remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago we had Lieutenant General Heitold here, with Vice Commander of Special Ops, and Brad worked with Heitold as well as with Admiral McCraven, who was the commander at the time. So thanks both for being here. Mounir, when you're talking about the Olympics, we often talk, public is about the 1%ers, but in the Olympics, a 1% advantage is enormous. So you're looking for 0.1% advantages in some cases. How do you even go about achieving that? What role does technology play in that minute of a space?
So think of 1% as the difference between arriving first at the finish line and arriving 12th at the finish line.
Wow.
Right? This is the 1% gap. So the 0.01% is really the difference between gold and silver and bronze and nothing, right? And definitely the last thing you want to do as an athlete is get 4th place. Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, some athletes say that the worst thing that can happen is getting 2nd place, right? But really, no one wants to get 4th, and you have to be on the podium. Now, how do you get that? I've been in the sports industry for about 20 years, been in the tech industry for about 23, 24 years, and I have to tell you, when you're working with high-performing athletes, success comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that is informed decision-making. Right? If you are able to make a better decision than everyone here in the room, you are going to have an advantage with respect to everyone here. And this is what Olympic athletes are after. So then the question becomes, how can you leverage technology, sometimes technology that does not exist on the market, let's say does not exist on the sports market, and how can you help athletes leverage that technology, co-create that technology so that they have got decision-making advantage with respect to everyone. In the sports world, now we're starting to get clever, if you want, on the field of play. In the past, we used to do lots and lots of sports science and sports measurements and sports engineering inside the lab. But when you're inside the lab, you're really working with the best wrong data that you have, right? It's the best wrong data set.
What do you mean the best wrong data? Because it's not the actual race, or what?
Well, it's not the actual race. That's one. No, number two, you got the athlete who is all of a sudden in a hostile condition, right? Like white walls, like where's the sun, where's the grass field, where's the mountain, right? Where's the water? Yeah. And when you extract an athlete from their natural habitat, you know, that they've been living in and competing in for the past 15, 16 years, all of a sudden you've got a new, like it's a new species that you're working with, right? So yes, they're gonna run, yes, they're gonna swing the bat, yes, they're gonna kick the ball, but what you're really after is extracting information from their bodies when they're performing the action, right? Best case scenarios is when they are competing. Sometimes regulations do not allow us to use technologies in competition, and if that's not a possibility, then during training. But if we can get boxers' data from her as she's boxing, then we're empowering her and her coach with decision-making tools that have not been available before. And this is some of the secret sauce, if you want, that we were using in the 4 years between the London Olympic Games 2012 and the Rio Olympic Games in 2016 to allow Team USA to boost up the medal count by about 20%. Now, it's
amazing, by the
way.
You did a great job.
Thanks.
So, Brad, in your context, what does this look like?
So yeah, I was going to kind of build on some of the facts he said. So
some of the things he said sound dead center for you.
Dead center.
And some maybe a little different.
So right. So when he talks about the changing the 1%, it's the 1st through 12th. For the community that I support, and now in my previous job and my current job as the warfighter director at Draper Labs for SOF operations, it's the 1% is not 1st through 12th, it's life and death. So that 1% is that one extra second. It's that one, you know, that one moment when they kick in the door and their performance kicks in, and that training kicks in, and that technological advantage kicks in, the owning the night, all these different things that we try to get our warfighters to do, that's where that kicks in. So it's a life or death situation that we're trying to assist and augment and have technology promote better decision-making tools, promote better social dynamics for team, for small unit dominance, promote, you know, a definite advantage over, like I said before, near-peer competitors. So it's kind of the same thing, just a flip side of the coin a little bit, but you know, like we discussed before this, he's dealing with Olympic athletes, I'm dealing with soft tactical athletes. It's our Olympics, so it's the same kind of. You know.
So let's build from there, Brad, and then Mounir, you can pick this question up too. So given your population you're trying to serve and work with, and the world of technology and change, how do you find foresight to figure out what exactly to spend time on? How do you find things and then prioritize? Brad, what does that look like for you?
Sure, and it kind of echoes the statements made by the CEO of MITRE yesterday in the FFRDC saying that, hey, the military and the government, we have problems now, right? We had problems yesterday, we'll have problems tomorrow. So a lot of them are focused on solving the problems of now or yesterday. So how do we get in front or left of boom or in front of that kill chain and say, hey, how do you identify the technologies that will be needed tomorrow, will be needed 20 years from now?
Right.
I think that paradigm shift is starting to happen. Down at Special Operations Command.
Meaning there's more of an attention being paid to that within the government and the organizations you work with?
Exactly.
But Special Ops is the tip of the spear, though, for this experimentation for the military, right?
It is.
You're kind of you were in a special space. Are you seeing that cascading across other parts of the military?
That's good. So Special Ops, like you said, tip of the spear, and for using a military term, blood travels down, right? So, you know, things trickle down, sorry. things trickle down. Technology development trickles down, so innovation trickles down. So we're trying to lead the charge, but really it comes with partnerships. It comes with innovative partnerships with industry, academia, and government. This isn't something that the government does alone. This isn't something that we're traditionally good at alone. This is something that this group and the collective, you know, industry is good at, and we're trying to learn from you guys, basically. So we're trying to leverage that, and that's how we kind of create foresight, is not waiting for military requirements to be vetted through the process. I mean, everybody knows if you go after Defense Department contracts, it's arduous, it takes time, it's frustrating, right? But if you wait for that process of a requirement to be 2 years old before a request for information is let out to the public here, and you apply to that, you're 2 years behind the power curve.
I can't remember who said it. Mike Lippitz shared this with me, but someone with much more acumen in this space than I said, I have never seen a major military innovation come from a requirements document.
That's a good point. No, and
it's not just in the military, kids.
Yeah, it's a valid point. So what I try to encourage and what I've been trying to infuse in the culture, especially at Special Operations, but proliferating throughout the forces and throughout industry, academia, and government, is you have to get involved early and often. So these tech development roadmaps, like someone mentioned yesterday, this is early and often with the military, with the end users. There's some end users of technology for special operations in the room right now. And my conversations with them are more valuable to me than my conversations with upper echelons of leadership. Because I want to know what they needed now, what they need yesterday, and then ideate with them, have divergent collaboration sessions with them to figure out what might be needed tomorrow so that you can walk hand in hand with development.
But it's not just simple as asking them, because they can't necessarily tell you. They only know what they already know. So how do you get beyond what they are able to tell you right now?
Good point. So there's they do tactical exercises. So what we started to do is bring engineers and scientists and researchers that spend, no offense because I'm one of those, but spend a lot of time looking at shoes and crunching numbers in labs.
Right.
Get them out of their comfort zone. Take them outside of the box. Go on an urban tactical thing.
Wow.
And they see someone breach a door. They see someone go on and assault targets. And we were dealing with human augmentation systems, for example, exoskeletal robotics in the military. We took some of those developers there, and they kind of went, I didn't know they moved like that. I thought you guys just, ran everywhere like Leroy Jenkins' hair on fire. And I said, well, that's not really the way it happens. It's a very methodical motion. And they kind of changed the way they think about design and the way they would go after technology development because of what they saw.
Fantastic. Mounir, what does this look like in your environment?
I'll tell you two stories. One from gymnastics, right, where we were in contact with a very, very good tech company. All of you know that company. And they built a wonderful product for our gymnasts, right? However, that product failed as soon as we started using it in the gymnastics venue, mainly because there was dust in the air due to the chalk that is being used. Right? The second one was this great optical technology that was on the track field, but for some reason, when the technology was supposed to start working, it did not work. And it happened that there was a colony of ants passing through, right? So these, like the design principles that have to be embedded in the technology development are just invaluable. But yesterday we were having a conversation with one of the gentlemen sitting here, I can't spot you, how when you're designing a building, everyone thinks that the south side of the building is going to be the first one occupied. Well, you know what? The north side was occupied because of, what was it? There was, I think back in the 70s here in Chicago, they had the Playboy offices just on that end, and the models would sunbathe almost naked, right? So everyone wanted to be on the north side of the building.
Yeah.
Right? So
those great things for property value.
Right? Yes. So I'd say design, and specifically human-centered design, are really key issues that we go after. Whenever we are in contact with any engineering or research group, we're always ask them to come to the training venue, live with the athletes before they propose anything. Because until
live
that
with
moment,
the athletes. Watch the warfighters in tactical exercises. Live with the athletes. By the way, these sound like really exciting jobs for a designer or an engineer. I mean, this is something like people would probably pay to do that.
They're not boring.
Yeah. So what reflections on the session yesterday, on some of the conversation? Any one thing that struck you or that impressed you or maybe even that surprised you?
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, I'm still humming Game of Thrones.
Oh, you mean that?
Right?
I meant your session yesterday.
I know. But you know what? I'm also practicing.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
We should all do this.
That was an inspiring moment, actually. I think all athletes should go to some dance schools because you get to learn a lot. Yeah. But from the workshop yesterday, only 35 of you were there. We talked about so many things, right? We talked about sensors and data and technology and then I think the one thing that stuck with all of the audience in the room was that, yes, technology is great. Yes, research is great. Yes, numbers are great. Yes, everything is great, right? But what it really comes down to is that one question of, so what? Right? So what? So what if we can measure our blood glucose levels in real time, right? What if we can measure how long are we sitting, how long are we standing? How is that going to help us, every one of us, make better decisions in our environment, in our life, in our work? And I think that's the one message that everyone was focusing on.
Great. Brad, what struck you?
There was a lot of good conversation and awesome audience participation yesterday in the network body session. A couple things. One, real quick one. I think that in some of the soft truths, as we call them, the special operations truths that were echoed yesterday, is one of them is humans more important than hardware. So that's kind of a mantra that we have, because we are focused on the operator first. So think about the large Navy, the large Air Force, Marine Corps, those guys. They create huge systems. They create littoral combat ships and spend billions of dollars. And then afterwards they say, oh no, we got to figure out how humans interoperate with these things. For special operations, it's different. For us, and for the community, it's all centered around the system of the operator. So all technologies developed are for the operator. Whether it's shoot, move, communicate, it doesn't matter, it's all for them. So in the session yesterday, I think we had a lot of discussion about application.
Right.
So we had a question from an older gentleman, and he said, well, have you looked at other applications besides the sensors you're talking about? John Rogers has some great PSM technologies that he's developed here at Northwestern and some other things, and the answer was absolutely. However, when you take a step back using a little foresight, you have to decide how to apply these technologies. And that's why this kind of culmination of innovative thinkers together becomes such an important role in this, in providing our warfighters and our protectors and our shepherds the best technologies we can possibly give, is because we have to decide how we can culminate and use the technologies being developed today, the COTS, the GOTS, the commercial off-the-shelf, government off-the-shelf stuff.
Yeah.
Right. How can you put those in today, into use today? Because these guys and gals that are using it from my community are very, very, very good at finding different ways to use. You give them a roll of duct tape and they'll solve the world's issues, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
but I mean,
The MacGyver of the military.
that's exactly what we're trying to cultivate. So I think that, just the idea that there's a lot of great things out there, but we have to work together to find a collective applications of these things.
Right.
Because then you can build technological progress and foresight into that after you find what the applications really are.
So with respect to foresight and technology and building that path together, 15 years from now, we're back here at Kin Global, whatever the heck that is, you do the math. Well, actually, we'll probably be virtually all together in 15 years. But in any case, we're back together in 15 years. What is one technology or capability, method, something that you think might actually be diffusing into the public sphere? Might be the beginning, might be all the rage, the Google Eye. You can't use that example. What might that technology be 15 years from now, diffusing into the public sphere? Any ideas? Mounir.
I would go for the one versus the environment, right? So for right now, in here in this room, some people are cold, some people are warm, right? I'd say 15 years from now, we will all have our own sort of shirts, t-shirts, underwear, socks, pants that are going to be helping us regulate our temperatures. There's lots of advancements in what you call textile computing industry today. And I strongly believe that once that makes its way into all the shops where we are purchasing our clothes from, and as far as I know, 15 years from now, we will still be clothed.
Yes,
in
one hopes.
in the society, right?
Yeah.
So that
Maybe not at Kin Global, though.
The man onesies, yeah.
Yeah, onesies, yeah, rompums.
Yeah. Sensor-infused rompums.
Right, yeah. Good.
Yeah,
I will be a big customer. Brad.
Yeah, so 15 years from now, I think I'll stick with kind of a broader thing, but it's man-machine interface. So as I was talking with you before, I came from a very interesting meeting last week with some of the upper echelons of our leadership in the government and the military, talking specifically about man-machine interface. And they're talking about policies, and they're talking about what's going to happen, and we're talking about, is it good? Is science fiction becoming science fact, and how hard should we push back on that envelope? And the answer is, I don't think we should push back at all. I think we should accept this. I think we should nurture that, because in 15 years, there's going to be augmented reality vision happening in your glasses right now. You're going to see your notes on your paper in your glasses, so you don't have to look down. That's already out there, HoloLens, things like that, right? You're gonna have a guy walk in, an amputee walk in with a robotic leg that is linked directly through EEG to his mental. So he doesn't, it controls him mentally. He doesn't have to have pressure sensors on. It's going to have EMG technologies that can detect muscle movement that'll link you in with the environment. I mean, it's going to be a censored society. And some of that is beginning in the Department of Defense and with the Olympic Committee and things like that, but it really lies, like I said, with you guys. So we are acceptors of developed technology. And I would encourage you, and I think this has been an invaluable gathering, and I look forward to more, but I would encourage you guys to keep pushing that envelope, because there is so many needs from our community that are dire needs. These are life and death needs. So there's so many needs that we have, and we are wanting to collaborate more with you guys. So yeah, I just think the man-machine interface characteristics of the future are limitless. And you see it already with some of the drone guys. I mean, that's just the wave of the future. It's coming. It's coming.
So we will pick this topic up again in Kin Global 2018. I don't know how exactly, but we will, and I hope the two of you will be back to help us do this. There are enormous opportunities as well as challenges and ethical issues we haven't really gotten into much today, but they're both good and bad. But I agree with you, Brad and Mounir, that we can't not do them because they will be done. We have to understand what they mean and digest them and make them great for all of us. The 0.1% advantage. There's dust in the air and colonies of ants. How do you pursue 0.1% advantage at the best of times, much less when life intervenes? How do you connect the dots and create a network that helps us find the best things before the competition? This notion of competition. Blood trickles down. That's trickling down my spine. But understand that blood trickles down as we protect our liberties as a country, but also blood trickles down through blood, sweat, and tears. Maybe it's the good kind of blood. Maybe it's the kind of blood where we're putting our elbow to the grindstone to make these new things happen. And in these cases, it's in a context of deep competition. But there are also rising tides. Maybe they raise some of the boats, but ultimately, we also have to figure out how to make these things work for all of us, or we will, in the long run, all pay. I think generally the future's bright, and I'm glad you guys are working on it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.